Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys our next Twitter discussion video. Today I have a pretty fun one for you. And it was inspired by John Jr. He had a pretty cool poll on his channel that I kind of took the inspiration from. So I'm going to link John in the description below. Definitely go check him out down there. He's been making great content. He's been on the grind. I'd appreciate if you checked him out. As well as sub to this channel. We're on our way to 2,000. We've been gaining pretty well lately, and I'd appreciate if you help me out. But regardless, our question today is going to be, basically, you're a slightly weaker Pokemon than Thanos. You can't snap every Pokemon from existence, but you get to snap one Pokemon. It goes bye-bye forever. Which Pokemon are you picking to get rid of? For me, I pick Grimmsnarl. Now, I'm not a VGC player, so that sounds dumb, right? I'm a singles player. Grimmsnarl's not even that good, which I get it. It's not broken. I fully acknowledge that. It's actually not even that good. I hate drafting it in Draft League. I think it's pretty bad. But whenever I play it, it just gives me such a headache. I hate playing against Screens offense. I don't like playing against Prankster Parting Shot either. So it's just a generally annoying Pokemon, and I don't like playing it, and I would rather it not be in the game personally. There's not any like more Pokemon that I violently dislike playing very much. There's Pokemon I think are bad, but I like playing those ones. This one just annoys me. So just keep that in mind. That's kind of the premise of the thing. It doesn't have to be a broken Pokemon, but I definitely don't like it. Alright, that being said, look at that. First off, we start off with Greg making fun of me, saying, I wish all my opponents had a Grimmsnarl. I started game 6-5 in preview. You know, it's just me. You know, I don't like it. Just leave me alone, Greg. Next up, though, we have Muscle Tussle with our first actual submissions. We have Cinderace or Cloyster. Don't like the designs, what they bring to the table. Definitely fair. I think Gen 9 Cinderace is a pretty interesting topic, right? In the sense that, like, Libero and Proteum were nerfed, if you don't know, to where you only turn into the typing of the first move that you click when you come out. So now if you click High Jump Kick, you turn to a fighting type, and then you turn afterwards, you'll still be a fighting type when you click that. So it's definitely a nerf. I don't know if it necessarily makes Cinderace less broken, because it's also a Pokemon that's going to be spamming U-turn or being choice banded and only clicking one move anyways and getting a stab move on top of really high base power attacks. So I don't know how much it's really going to affect Cinderace, but I do think that it's definitely a little bit worse. So who knows? Maybe we'll see. Cloyster, I think this is definitely more of a ladder thing. I remember there was that time last gen where King's Rock Cloyster was everywhere, and it was just flinching everything with Icicle Spears and cheesing through teams. And I remember in CGT last season, when I played Sven, I kept losing mocks despite always outplaying because my Toxapex kept getting flinched by King's Rock Cloyster in the mocks, and then it would be a 2-hit KO from there, and that's not fun, obviously. So I'm definitely not a big Cloyster guy personally, in that sense, but I think as long as like that King's Rock shenanigans is kind of banned or not around, I think it's a fine Pokemon. I like fat defensive spiking Cloyster as well. I think it's a really slept on aspect, especially in like a draft counter team format, but I definitely get if you have some PTSD from when King's Rock was running around. Next up, we have Ambipom from Obo. Almost said Owen, but I mean, his name is Owen too. We have John Jr.'s Ambipom in particular. I don't know why John Jr.'s Ambipom. Now, Ambipom hasn't been in the game in any Switch game besides Legend Arceus, which is phenomenal because it's an ugly, gross Pokemon that's not very good. So I'm okay with it being gone to Obo. It's basically gone at this point. Then we have Daniel saying double stupid cheap. For those of you who don't know, in this most recent season of APA in Generation 8, D-Ray had the unfortunate task of taking on Amel, and if you don't know Amel in draft, he brings some fun stuff, man. And he brought a Protect, Agility, Swords Dance, Last Resort double, and demolished D-Ray with it. It was one of the most entertaining games ever. I feel bad for Daniel because he was on the receiving end of a double sweep, but I am glad that we got to see the double sweep at the very least, because I mean, typically, I've seen double sweeps before in the sense of, like, you know, like Cotton Guard, body press sets, and things like that, but no, this was an offensive Last Resort double. D-Ray did not have a normal resistor immunity on his draft, and it showed him why he should. So that was really, really cool. Okay, next up we have Thriller saying, I know some love this mod and I love it for design, but what it can do in a league format for me, it has to be Suicune. It has done nothing but be a stupid toxic style Pokemon for all the times I face, and it's just an annoying mod to deal with. I'll give you that. See, again, it's not that Suicune's like objectively broken, so obviously Thriller, I don't think he's saying that, because it's not, obviously, but Suicune is very annoying to deal with. Now, I do know in Generation 8 in particular, Suicune saw a big fall off in draft usage and things like that, which always perplexed me because I love Suicune. I still continue to draft it throughout the generation. It's always incredibly annoying, and the amount of preps that it forces is pretty incredible, to say the very least. Like, it forces a ridiculous amount of prep, whether that be Toxic Protect sets, Rest Talk sets, Sub Calm Mind sets, Toxic Calm Mind Protect Scald sets. Like, it's really good. I think Kurt uses it really well too whenever Kurt drafts Suicune. It's a great Pokemon, man. I love it. Especially with proper support and things like that. You do have to be very careful around knockoffs. It's like one of the most non-dark weak knockoff weak mons there is in the world. But I think especially in Generation 9, if it comes back with the amount of things that have lost knockoff, it could be even better this gen. So I'm definitely a big... Oh, no, because it's going to lose Scald, though. No, Suicune will suck this gen. Just kidding. Man, one of the best things about Suicune is that you burn things with your Calm Mind variants, and you slowly chip them down over time, and your Calm Mind up, so special attacks won't do anything, and you burn them, so physical attack. Man, it losing Scald is a pretty big nerf to Suicune. That's tough. They got to give it back to just him. Alright, next up we have another bulky water type here from Kirsch, saying it no longer exists as gen, but I hated Milotic with a passion. Always managed to get walled by it. I am a big Milotic guy. I wouldn't say big Milotic guy. I think it's okay. I personally cannot stand Flame Orb sets. I talked about this in a recent video. I don't remember which one, but I talked about it in a recent video where I think Flame Orb Milotic, it was the Heat Sets video where the Spike Gator beat the Milotic, which was awesome. But Flame Orb almost is like counterintuitive to a degree, because one, it makes you much less like of a potent special wall because you're getting chipped down opposed to getting health back from leftovers or avoiding hazards with heavy duty boots or something like that. But also those physical hits that you now live, if there's like a rock or spikes up or anything like that, that plus burn plus the attack basically puts you where you're at before. So it's just not beneficial in 95% of instances to run Flame Orb, in my opinion. So I think that's when Milotic falls flat, but I do think it's very annoying with like boots in particular. Not being able to chip Milo down with hazards is so annoying. So I definitely think that it's a very solid Pokemon. And it can definitely be really annoying if you don't have the sufficient pieces to break it. And I've definitely been in that position. Next up, we have Mia saying, this is a vent post disguised as an interaction farm, and I respect that. I you know, real recognize real. And they're going to say, I also say Grimmsnarl because it walls Latios stabs. You know what? If it walls your favorite Pokemon to use in the format, or might even be their favorite Pokemon in general, I understand it, because that's annoying, and we like Latios popping. I'm a big Latios guy as well, so I'm here for it. Okay, next up, Kurt? You okay, dude? It's still going. Alright. Kurt doesn't like Skuntank. On to the... Kurt has a violent disdain for Skuntank, and it's not even like he got swept by a Skuntank or anything like that. He just didn't like it so much that it is like his least favorite Pokemon now, which is crazy. Alright, next up we have Ethan, or Wrath. Oh my god, I can't read, and like a lisp is coming out, and I'm gonna sound like a 12-year-old. So, I'm not gonna say that. Ethan. Coming from the guy who has the most like convoluted name to say. He's gonna say, I know they're not in Gen 9 at the moment, but the tabus were extremely frustrating. The 4 horsemen of power creep. For Gen 9, I'm gonna say Iron Valiant. I love using it. I love the design. It's super neat to build around, but good god, I think can be too much for it to be healthy. That's completely fair. As for the Tapus, I think that's fair outside of Bulu, because Bulu sucks. But obviously, like, dude, for those of you guys who started playing in Gen 8 or even in Gen 9, the Gen 7 Tapus were a different demon. I think Feeny might have gotten better in Gen 8, just due to the moves that it got, and, you know, just it not really benefiting from its terrain like the other two do. But Lele, objectively broken in Gen 7, right? It wasn't allowed in standard draft league play, and in Smogon, it was even better than it was in Gen 8. And then Coco was so much stronger, especially with hidden power, and with the terrain buff being as high as it was in Gen 7. By far the best Pokemon in the format. Yeah, maybe Megazam. Maybe Celesteela, but it's at the very least certified top 3 in the format in Usum, which is a big fallout in Swish, but man, those Pokemon were incredible, and I love Coco personally. My favorite Draft League core of all time to use is going to be Tapu Koko plus Mega Medicham, or Tapu Koko plus any strong fighting, whether it be Mega Gallade, Urshifu. Like, it is an incredible facilitator of offense, and it's also incredible offensively. Valiant is an interesting one, right? Because it is definitely one of the best Pokemon in this generation, especially when it comes to like a draft league format. But I think what really sets Valiant over the top, and a lot of leagues are kind of catching on to this, is when it can terrestrialize. A lot of leagues, what they're doing is they're doing terrestrialized captains, which definitely makes a lot of sense. Free Terra is just, I don't think I could play in a free Terra league in a counter team format. It just seems like way too much. But like Terra Fairy, what do you call it, Valiant, it just doesn't have switch ins. You throw a Specs on it or a Band on it, or you go booster energy and you kind of get a Swords Dance off or a Calm Mind off. You can be physical, special, mix. So many different things offensively, and it is so overwhelming. Like, it is very hard to build for, and it's very hard to just reliably revenge too, especially because booster energy sets can exist. Like, it's very difficult to deal with, and that Fairy Fighting Stab is just so incredible, especially if you can boost one of them up with a Terra. Like, it is tough, man. It is really, really tough. Okay, so I could definitely see this Pokemon getting a little bit overwhelming over time. Next up, though, we have Lars here saying, sorry, Mamo, but you gotta go. I like you, but playing against you is an absolute nightmare. Mamo is a really interesting Pokemon, and I think we talked about it in our Ice-type video in the sense of, like, it's unwallable, almost. Like, there's probably a Mamo to break through every Pokemon in the game. Even ones like Rotom, like, if Rotom goes too defensive and Freeze Dry, you could be, like, Life Orb knockoff into Freeze Dry and just kill it. Like, provided you outspeed it, and if you don't outspeed it, it's not as bulky, and you knock off the first time, and then you catch it with a Freeze Dry the next time, and it probably dies. So, like, Mamo, for Rotom Heat, you can Stone Edge. For Scarm, you can even go mixed variants. I've seen Blizzard Mamo in Draft League games because it can 2-hit KO Fizz Def Scarms, and they have to respect the Band prospect, and even then, you could just go Band because you can flinch it, and then it's a 2-hit KO from there. You know what I mean? Like, it's a really scary mon offensively. It's obviously not the bulkiest thing in the world. It has decent HP, but it can be overwhelmed pretty fast. Obviously, it's not the best, having that ice typing on it. It's pretty lackluster, and its speed tier isn't great, and I think that's what balances Mamo out, but I definitely don't like playing against it. I love using Mamo. I haven't used it in a minute, but I love using Mamo. Okay, next up here, we have Seth saying this is strictly Gen 8 meta, so we're only talking about Switch, which is fair, because we don't know too much about Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet just yet. First up is Garchomp. Prepping for it can be a nightmare, and you don't know which Chomp you're going to see, and prepping wrong will hurt. I think that's fair. Garchomp's just an amazing Pokemon. I get not wanting to play it, but that's really any versatile Pokemon. Someone brings up Necrozma later, and I think Necrozma is an even bigger kind of instance of that, or like a Mew or something like that. Next up, we have Unaware Clef, Quagsire / Regen Cores. We just don't like Stall, which is, like, again, fair, but there's nothing inherently wrong with Stall, and that's something that I always, like, kind of preach, is that there's usually a negative connotation with Draft League, or not even Draft League, just Pokemon singles players in general when it comes to Stall. But realistically, it's just another playstyle that has its own strengths and weaknesses, and it's kind of a matter of growing as a player and learning how to combat those playstyles, opposed to, being able to play the way you want to every single game. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different. So Regen is definitely a very big point of contention when it comes to competitive Pokemon, singles, and Draft League especially as well. And then we have Lando T and Zygarde 50. Better have a super defensive option with you. They are very annoying Pokemon to deal with. Zygarde 50 has the most spammable move in the game, in 1,000 Arrows. You cannot change my mind. There's one Pokemon in the game that doesn't get hit by it, and his name is Shedinja, which is a shitty Pokemon, obviously. So, and it's not like Zygarde isn't beating Shedinja. So, you always have a no drawback attack. Just, like, quite literally always have one. You can Coil, Dragon Dance, Glare, Toxic, Rest Talk, like a bunch of things. I love Zygarde 50. It's one of my highest kill ranked mons of all time. Like, absolutely love the thing. So I'm here for it. And Lando T, just picture perfect team player. It can either, be the team captain and pull up and sweep, or it can be a great support mon with rocks and U-turn and knock and all that thing, all those kinds of things. I do think it lost knock. It did gain Nasty Plot, which I think is pretty interesting on Lando T. I think Nasty Lando T could be pretty fun in some Draft League instances. Next up, we have Badass Frostlass saying, I always prep for defensive Zapdos because I refuse to accept when people use offensive, and then my ground type gets 2-hit KO by Hurricane. Yes, 100%. Gen 8 Zapdos is a different beast, man. Even when I prep for offensive, or even when they bring defensive Zapdos, there are some grounds that just don't take it on over the course of the game anymore. Even if they're defensive and they only do 35-40, that Hurricane hits, and now you're a 2-hit KO. And most of these grounds don't have reliable recovery, so you're just getting dunked on by this Zapdos over the course of the game. Whether it be offensive variants, or whether it be toxic variants, or just U-turning variants, defogging variants, Zapdos is a great Pokemon. Another one of my favorite cores all the time is Zapdos Mega Scizor. I love those two mons. Absolutely love Zapdos in Draft, but it's definitely a really annoying Pokemon to play. Plus, you gotta play around the Static too, and then you're playing around Static, and then they come in and you see their pressure, and you're like, oh shit, I'm about to get sub-toxic. Like, it's such an annoying Pokemon. Next up is Endless Gadgets here saying, I can't be Superior for the life of me, so let's just get rid of it That's fair. Superior is a Pokemon that I feel like can just spiral out of control so fast, and sometimes it just, you don't even know it's happening. It's happened to me many times. I feel like especially early when I first started playing draft, not saying like only new players lose to Superior, no, because I've lost to Superior recently. But I feel like especially early in my draft career, I'm like, I can kind of pivot around this thing. No, you have to be quick and swift with your Superior answers, because even those resists are going to get overwhelmed when +6 Leaf Storms are popping out. Now, obviously in Generation 8 post Hidden Power metas, it's not as good, but it can still really compound, and it can cheese through some teams too with like Subglare Leech, Leaf Storm and things like that, or Dragon Pulse, or even like a 4th move Giga Drain, or whatever it may be. It can be incredibly noxious, and again, it really spirals out of control really fast. So I definitely think that Superior is a fair answer here. Next up, we have Stremy saying the Regenerator ability. I mean, the Draft League player click U-turn with Toward T fans in the crowd are not going to be too happy with you, Stremy, but I understand it, because Regen cores aren't very fun. Next up, we have J-Bear saying, fuck them keys, they gotta go. J-Bear has a violent dislike for Klefki, and I guess it's kind of a similar reason to me not liking Grimmsnarl if you think about it at the end of the day. Like Prankster, T-Wave, Spikes, Screens. It doesn't get momentum, which Grimmsnarl didn't last gen. I still hate it last gen, so it honestly invariably a better typing too. And it can like Calm Mind cheese you just like Grimmsnarl can bulk up cheese you, so. And it's just not the favorite design of a lot of people, but yeah. Next up, we have Addison here saying Magirna, which is an interesting one. I like Mag. Maybe it's because I never have to play Mag. I didn't play a lot of Usum Ladder. I've never gotten to use Mag in Draft League, which is so frustrating. I want to use it so bad. Every BBL season, I'm like, I'm drafting Mag, and it goes 2 picks before me. Every single season. I want to try it so bad. It looks like so much fun to build with. But I can definitely see it being annoying to play against, especially if you do it consistently. I've only played against it like 2 or 3 times in BBL, and it's obviously been an absolute monster of a threat. But it's not it's not a Pokemon I violently dislike. But I suppose if you play it enough, it would get really, really annoying really fast. Next up, we have Dell here saying Garchomp. The hottest take, but I feel like it's super underwhelming this gym and overrated for what it offers. So we had a Garchomp earlier. I think Dell might have misread the question, just saying like, I don't think it's very good. What's overrated? I don't know. But I am interested to see what you guys think. Do you think Garchomp this gen is worse than it was last gen, or better, or on par? Personally, I think it's about the same, right? It lost Scale Shot this gen. At least as of right now, Garchomp cannot Swords Dance plus Scale Shot and sweep as easily. But it got Spikes, man. Spikes Garchomp is so good. I'm using it in the Smogon tour right now, which hopefully I'll have a video up of that in a month or two, whenever my run ends. But we're going to keep going strong and make it into a movie. But I'm using Spikes Garchomp plus Chin Power right now, and Chomp forces such telegraph switches so often. That's why it's such a good stealth rocker, right? And that's why it can set up Swords Dances so easily and things like that. Now we're giving it Spikes. It can set up rocks and Spikes. It's great with Hazard Stack that makes Helmet, Rough Skin, Chomp even better. And like, you can still go with like SD variants and things like that to break through fat. Chomp would very often run SD rocks, you know, in prior generations. Now it can run SD Spikes. It can do a ton of things. I love me some Garchomp. It is an amazing Pokemon. So I don't know. I know Dell didn't like it very much in PPR. I think that's why he traded it. But I'm interested to see what you guys think. Next up, we have Mid, who has the most interesting answer here, which is going to be Piplup. Least favorite Pokemon ever, and I hate it more than anything else in this world. And then he sent me this video of him throwing a Piplup plush on the floor in the middle of a store. I talked to him in call, and he said it was because he used to try and solo the game with Chimchar when he was a kid in like DPP, and he would always get worked by the rival's Piplup when he would first start. So I don't know, man. It just stuck with him, and I respect it. I'm a certified hater, just like Mid, and you know what? Fuck Piplup. I agree. Next up, we have Trexo saying Klefki for the same exact reason. We just kind of talked about Klefki, but again, I kind of acknowledge it there. It is kind of a similar, like, annoyance bond to like Grimmsnarl. Not broken, just an annoying dickhead. Next up, we have CG here. This one's mean. This one made me sad. He said, Rillaboom, Glide is cheap as fuck. I'm glad I can't use it post-home anymore, and that Glide's base power was nerfed. But man, Gen 8 Rillaboom always gave me trouble. Leave him alone. He already got enough punishment. He doesn't need to die. He's basically already dead. They didn't snap Rillaboom, but they snapped all of his viability. They nerfed Glide and took it away from him. I think they also took away high horsepower, and maybe superpower, I think. I don't know. I know they took away 3 moves from it, and it's just not good anymore. Leave him alone, CG. I don't like that you're being mean to Rillaboom. I loved Rillaboom last gen, so you need to be nice to him. Next up, we have probably one of my favorite tweets ever. It just says, "Sock." Like, fuck that guy. I mean, hey man, if we don't like Sock, we don't like Sock. I don't know why. I've never really played too many Socks in my life, but hey, you know what? Fuck Sock. Next up, we have Didi here. They have another comment later, but the way Twitter sorted the comments, I don't know. But they're going to say, second comment here, but I already want Dondozo gone before even seeing it in Draft League. The best base stats of all unaware mons, plus no initial rocks weakness like Dirge. The ability to Terra to check any setup mon your opponent could bring is just going to be painful. I think that's fair. But I think that, like, as long as you have a properly structured team, Dondozo isn't anything unbreakable. You know what I mean? Especially from the special side where it really ends up lacking. I think that Dondozo is pretty exploitable in that sense. And if you're playing in a draft league setting, and one, your opponent makes a Terra Captain Dondozo, and two, they're tearing a Dondozo opposed to, like, a Chimpao, a Valiant, a Dragonite, a Garchomp, whatever their top tier mon is, I think defensive Terra is much more mediocre than it is offensive Terra. I think actually Dirge is a much better Terramon when it comes to unaware, because while Dirge can use it to kind of check whatever it's supposed to defensively with that new typing, Dirge can also be very scary offensively. And I think while they both can set up in the sense of Torch Song versus Curse, I think Torch Song is much faster and there's more immediate damage being done, and it's much more difficult to pivot around, obviously, whereas Curse is a lot slower and a lot more exploitable, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know. I think that Dondozo is cool, and I'm using it in a draft league right now, but I wouldn't say it's, like, insane. You know what I mean? Next up, we have John, the inspo of the question itself, saying, "Good night, Bramblin." He hates this line with a violent passion. I've never seen someone hate a Pokemon line so much, which he's just a little tumbleweed guy. You didn't see Amel's game where Amel Bramblegassed someone in the Smog Tour and, like, swept the Rain team with a Brambleghast, or just, like, claimed 4 with it. It was hilarious, but I don't hate Bramblin or Brambleghast. I don't think they're very good, but I don't violently dislike them like John, so I don't know if I'll snap them. They can kind of exist in the background. Okay. Next up, we have Out of EXP saying Ditto, which is a crazy take. We can guarantee anyone who picks it knows what they're doing, and will preserve it, meaning if I ever crack an opening for a sweep, I need to drop coverage for sub, which means I probably need 2 setup sweepers rather than just 1. It's infuriating to build around. I don't know. I feel like if you're, like, relying on setup too much to win games, you need to have, like, a little bit deeper understanding of how to formulate win. Because winning isn't always setting up a Dragon Dance, setting up a Calm Mind, setting up a Nasty Plot, Agility. That's not how we always win games, right? And two, especially if we see a Ditto, you're either going to bring a setup sweeper that is just not really too worried about Ditto, whether it be that you wall yourself, and Ditto only has that 5 PP, or you bring, like, a fatter setup on, like a Reuniclus, obviously. Like, a Reuniclus no Shadow Ball always beats a Ditto Reuniclus. Very easy, and things like that. Or, you just don't bring setup. And again, if you don't, and you don't bring a crazy heavy setup build, Ditto is essentially a dead slot. Now, I know it can obviously copy into your mons and be a solid revenge killer with a Scarf and things like that, but you also know the coverage that it has, too. I actually personally think that Ditto is something that newer players draft a lot, as, like, a crutch against setup, and it's actually not a very good Pokemon. That might be a hot take for the people in the comments. Let me know, are you a big Ditto guy in the comments, or do you think it's not very good, like me? Next up, we have Bruno here saying, "Goodbye, Necrozma. I would say it's nice to meet you, but I would be lying." I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, and I think maybe someone else touched on it later a little bit more. But Necrozma is so annoying to build for. It is obnoxious. It can be Dragon Dance or Rock Polish / Autotomization, because apparently Rock Polish just snapped, which makes me so mad. Just learned that, like, yesterday, and I'm still mauling about it. So it could be Dragon Dance, Autotomize, Swords Dance, Calm Mind, Meteor Beam, or you could be fat with rocks or toxic, or whatever it may be, and just absolutely be a nuisance. Prism Armor is just a broken brain dead ability. You can weakness Mickey everybody with Necrozma, and it is so annoying to build for. It's great offensively, great defensively. It's an incredible draft league Pokemon. It's like the picture perfect example of a Pokemon that might not see, like, very consistent top level success in, like, a Smogon scene, but is incredible, and it has the perfect tools for a draft league Pokemon. So great mod. Next up, we have No here saying, if that's the name, I'm pretty sure, or whatever this is. Gen 8 Kyurem, Spec/DD/Subroost are all very annoying. Switching into your Specs answer into a DD just means you're toast. The freezes are just the cherry on top. Yeah, I think not even the freezes are the cherry on top. Pressure is the cherry on top. Especially in 10-8, man, where you have that full 16 roost, you can sub-roost pressure stall all of the coverage move that your opponent is going for, and you're so bulky that even when you're roosting and taking that hit, you're not really at risk to a crit or anything like that, and you can just PP stall something out of an attack and wall it infinitely, even if they were meant to check you defensively. Freeze Dry plus Earth Power is basically perfect coverage. Specs is just an absolute nuke as well. You can drop big Dracos and Freeze Dries and Ice Beams and Earth Powers. And then DD is also an option. I've also seen sub DD Icicle Spear Roost to absolutely PP stall things. I saw a floor just get absolutely bullied by that set one time because it wasn't even 2-hit KO by Moonblast. It was like a max Spadef Kyurem, and it DD once and then like DD'd again, sub Roost, sub Roost, like over and over again until the floor just ran out of moves, and then they set up more DDs and won the game. It's pretty incredible. I've even seen that set work against Aegislashes and things like that before, which, speaking of, is going to be our next Pokemon here, an Aegislash. King Shield, Toxic, and Sub, that's all you need to know. I do love me some Toxic AG. No, personally, when I run Toxic AG, I usually run 2 attacks, King Shield, Toxic, just because getting a Sub off tends to be a little bit difficult. But in general, very good Pokemon. Very versatile. It can be defensive like this. It can be offensive. It could be Specs. It could be Band. It could be Swords Dance. It could be Auto. It could be a bunch of things. Weakness Policy. SD Sneak. Like, it does so many things for a team. It's such a good defensive typing. It's such a good typing in general with its great coverage. Stabs plus fighting with close combat is just unresisted. You can't do anything about it. So, pretty cool. Okay. How much more do we have? Oh, we're almost there. Okay, cool. Next up, we have Iger here saying, Gen 9 Chien-Pao. God, whenever I build for this stupid cat or face it, it just ruins my day. I hate it so much. And Gen 8 Mew, love to use it, but hate to face it. Mew is, again, it's a lot like the Necrozma thing, but even more so. Now, its stats aren't as specialized and honestly as good, in my opinion. Like, base 100 is great all around. Don't get me wrong, especially defensively. But I like the little bit more specialized stats of Necrozma, and its ridiculously high special attack stat and things like that, as well as its great ability, making it basically as bulky, if not bulkier. But Mew is also not going to be as good offensively, in my opinion, as Necro. Like, it can obviously do more offensively. It can Acid Ball, Swords Dance, Calm Mind, Roost, but whatever. Every setup move under the sun besides like Tail Glow, Dragon Dance. But due to its middling stats, it really relies on high base power moves and frailer teams to set up and sweep. I think fatter Calm Mind variants are probably going to be your best setup options. Or Cosmic Power is incredible, provided you can avoid status. Or my personal favorite is how good Mew is defensively. It can rock like Necrozma, but it can also spike. It can U-turn and Volt Switch for momentum, but it can also be the best Mew set, Stall Breaker. We're gonna run Super Fang, Will-O-Wisp, Roost, and Taunt. Instead of Super Fang, you can also be Siphon Toss, Nightshade. Whatever consistent damaging move is best against the team in the matchup, you can run, and you're going to absolutely annoy teams. Be such a nuisance for teams, and I love it. Chien-Pao, I love using this thing. I understand not liking prepping for it because I've prepped for it a few times, and it is impossible to switch into Mega Weavile. So I think that's definitely pretty fair. Next up, we have Dragonite here from Neshoba. Lost a championship title too, and the fact that everything can go wrong so fast depending on if you predict the wrong set. Again, a very similar Pokemon where it can be very defensive. I loved using Dragonite CGT despite my subpar season. Whether it can be more defensive with like Heal Bell and status spreading and great coverage. It can be physical, it can be special, it can be Choice Band, it can be DD, and especially in Generation 9, because he's talking about Generation 8 D-Knight or Generation pre-9 D-Knight. Now it can Terra, and I've seen Terra D-Knight just rip through teams. Like, obviously we have the Terra normal set, which is like the tried and true set right now, whether it be DDE speed or Choice Band or whatever it may be. But I've also seen it do so much more in Draft League. I saw a game, I think it was Rye playing in like a Smogon Tour, where he ran Terra Water against a ring team, and he was like Surf, Thunder, Roost, Dragon Tail, pretty fat. Like, you can go special variants, or you can still go physical DD variants with like Terra Fire, Terra Dragon, Terra Steel, Terra Flying. Like, there's so many different options that you can run for D-Knight. I think if you have like an open Terra League, it is legitimately a top 5 Terramon. Like, top 5. So good. It might even be like a top 5 Mon. I don't know, in my opinion. I think Terra D-Knight is so good in a creative builder's hands. Next up, we have Omastar. I always seem to get obliterated by Shell Smash Monster. I think the worst offender to me is Omastar, so I'll thermostat that one. Not Lord Helix. I've actually never played Omastar in Draft League, so I think that's definitely an interesting one to see. Again, maybe just my circles don't draft Omastar enough. He's cool. We did see that one game from Aquarius where she brought Reflect type on the Omastar, and that was Demon. I would love to see more text like that from Omastar, but I guess it's got to get drafted more. Next up, we have Big Terrence here saying Quagsire is that perfect level of not being significant enough mon on a roster to prep too much for it, but also screwing you over if it does come and you bring setup. Quag is definitely an annoying mon, and it definitely got better this gen with Stealth Rock and Spikes, so that's completely fair in all honesty. It's a big nuisance to so many people. Next up, we have DD with their first. It says, I think anyone who knows me knows I'd say Celesteela. I've always had strong opinions on the mon, and hated facing it. If you guess the set wrong, it's almost impossible to beat it. Again, another Pokemon that really thrives in a Draft League metagame, right? In the sense that, like, you can be fat defensive lead trainers, which are always going to be tried and true, reliable in 90% of matches, but then you pull up with the autonomized Meteor Beam, or the Weakness Policy, or whatever it may be, and you smash with things. I've even seen Assault Vest Celesteela put in so much work. I've even seen Choice Scarf and Band at Celesteela put in work, so I definitely think that it's an amazing Pokemon. I think it was very slept on in Generation 8. In Generation 7, it was like a top tier meta threat, like a top 3 to 5 guaranteed Pokemon, especially with Z-moves. This gen, it fell off a little bit in usage and picked up a little bit when Meteor Beam became a theme and stuff like that. But in general, I think people sleep on Sally this gen. I think it's an amazing Pokemon. Next up, we have Jack here saying Smeargle, so I never have to watch a Moody Boost into VGC again. I'll take your word for it. I know nothing about that metagame, but I'll take your word for it. Then we have Razor Claw saying garbage with it, garbage against it. We're going to talk about Aegislash. Hey man, that's completely fair. I think Kurt actually has the same problem where he always struggles using Aegislash, but doesn't like playing it, which is definitely fair. There's definitely Pokemon like that that I've encountered as well. But we already kind of talked about why Aegislash is so good. Next up, we have Mega Sableye. This demon has haunted my dream for years in prep. Not as bad in recent years, but Gen 6 and 7, oh god. I think Sableye is really good on specific builds, and by specific builds, I mean stall teams. I don't think Sableye is good outside of stall, personally. I know some people are like, I can kind of, I don't know. I really don't think so, personally. I think that it's very good on those specific team types where hazard control and being able to bounce back status and things like that is so important. But other than that, I don't know. Next up, we have Dondozo. It's just another boring Stallmon. Whalmer should do it better. I don't know what the Whalmer comment means. Maybe you meant Whalelord, or maybe we should just buff Whalmer to be as good as Dondozo. We kind of talk about Dondozo. I don't think it's broken. I think it's cool. And then we have Pokemon Trainer Orange saying, fuck Crocodile. I always lose to it. These are both funny last ones, man. Crook is a really strong Pokemon. Another Pokemon that can really compound and get out of hand fast with Choice Scarf Moxie sets, but also like just Intim rocking sets and defensive sets and fatter offensive sets are going to be very solid in a lot of instances. Ground plus Dark is obviously an incredible stab combination. And then speaking of another Dark type, we have Chiyu. This fish is fucked up, bro. Which is like, again, a very funny tweet. I like that tweet a lot. Chiyu is definitely very strong. I think he's very slept on right now in the draft scene, and I think people are going to slowly start picking up on that and being like, oh my god, what do we do about this Pokemon defensively? Because it is so strong, especially if it can Terra. Whew, so strong. But, yeah, that's going to be our Pokemon Thanos Snap edition. Maybe we'll play in a Draft League where all of these Pokemon mentioned have to be gone forever, which would be actually pretty funny. But, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments which Pokemon you would snap from existence if given the chance. And, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.